All right, folks, today I am starting an arrow build for 2022, making a lot of changes this year. And as I dive into kind of figuring out how to build my arrows, there's something that I want to kind of shed a light on, and it's something that affects the price of your arrows, and that is arrow straightness. Arrows are typically sold in batches, and the only difference between those batches is the straightness tolerance. So you have 0.006 to 0.008 thousandths of an inch straightness, and then you have your middle of the line 0.003 to 0.004 thousandths of an inch straightness, and then you have your pro level, or the 0.001 thousandths of an inch straightness arrows. The way straightness is measured in the industry isn't so clear, and there really doesn't seem to be a standard across the industry. The way an arrow is supposed to be measured is a full length shaft minus 2 inches, and that's really not how all arrow manufacturers are doing it. A lot of arrow manufacturers don't even disclose how they're doing it. So there's a lot of confusion on how straight your arrow really is. And I'm here to tell you that the straightness tolerance of your arrow might not be as important as marketing may lead you to believe. These full length 32-inch shafts are made from carbon tubing that's actually rolled into 6-foot long pieces. And then they just take that piece of tubing and cut it into sections. And that's what gives you your carbon shaft. What the manufacturer does from there is just takes those tubes, measures them for straightness, however they measure arrows. There's no standard way to measure the arrow. And they determine the straightness of that arrow, batch them with the other arrows that are the same straightness, plus or minus 0.001 thousandths of an inch, and they give you a new arrow. You maybe think you're paying for a material that's better, or a process that's better, or an arrow that's better. In reality, they are made the very same way, out of the very exact same raw materials, and they are just batching them into certain straightness tolerances. A lot of the times, your straighter arrows are going to come from the middle portion of that 6-foot long tube, and then they're going to get less straight as you move down the tube. The same manufacturer day after day can get different tolerances from their machines. So air humidity, air pressure, and little deviations within the raw materials of the actual carbon shaft can yield different results from day after day. Cut the same way, cut from the same materials, cut on the same process, and you're getting charged $100 extra for a dozen arrows that the day before yielded a 0.006. You'll have the X arrow at 0.006 thousandths of an inch that costs $70, and then you'll have the X2 arrow that is 0.001 thousandths of an inch, and the price in the arrow is drastically different. We're talking hundreds of dollars difference between those straightness tolerances. So is that straightness tolerance, is that 0.006 thousandths of an inch that much worse than a 0.001 thousandths of an inch arrow? You're talking about the diameter of a human hair. That's the difference. A human hair is plus or minus 0.004 thousandths of an inch. 0.006 costing $60 versus 0.001 costing $160 is the difference of a human hair. Now, does straightness actually matter at all? Yes, in a straight physics sense, it does matter. If you were to put a 0.001 thousandths arrow in a hooter shooter and shoot it at 100 yards, and then put a 0.006 thousandths arrow into a hooter shooter and shoot it at 100 yards, there will be a slight difference in arrow performance, arrow flight, and accuracy. But are you a hooter shooter device? No. Am I a hooter shooter device? No. The difference is really minuscule. You are not going to realize a difference. I am not going to realize a difference. Only the elite of the world shooting 100 plus yards are going to notice a difference versus 0.006 straightness or 0.001 straightness arrows. Now, if you're someone that really matters to you and you believe that you need the cream of the crop, by all means purchase the 0.001 straightness arrows, but it is not going to be something that you can actually tell the difference of versus a plus or minus 0.006 straightness arrow.